welcome back to the last segment of today's show, talking more about the New York Jets. And last episode, we mentioned Aaron Rodgers not being there, and that was a massive story, obviously, in and of itself. But now, talking about the people and the players that were there, what went down at mandatory minicamp for the New York Jets. One of the most intriguing things that I thought was that this ongoing narrative, obviously, of Nathaniel Hackett, there was a lot of chatter this offseason around him being the play caller, the New York Jets trying to find maybe another option outside the organization to try and take the play calling responsibilities away from Nathaniel Hackett, just based on what we saw last year. A lot of people will say that it was over dependent on Aaron Rodgers. Once he went down, Nathaniel Hackett really had nothing to provide this team, just based on how it all produced itself out there on the field, with Zach Wilson not looking very much capable of running this offense. And for me, I didn't expect Nathaniel Hackett to make Zach Wilson look like Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or anything like that. But a lot of people will just say it should have looked a lot better than it did last year. And people thought that was the case last year, and they've continued that on through this offseason. And already this offseason, we've seen all those reports. Robert Saleh now being more incorporated in this offense, as it was reported by local media, and also Aaron Rodgers, confirming those reports in interviews as well, saying that Robert Saleh has given his input, and it has been pretty interesting and pretty well received from that group, what Robert Saleh has to say, just based on where he came from a defensive background. He has also been more involved in that, and now with Aaron Rodgers out of the picture, at least for mandatory minicamp, SNY reported that on Wednesday, Nathaniel Hackett was not calling the plays. Instead, it was Todd Downing with the play calling responsibilities. If you don't know who Todd Downing is for the New York Jets, he's the Jets quarterback coach and also the passing game coordinator, and also has had the offensive coordinator position with the Las Vegas Raiders in 2017, and was also the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans in 2021 and 2022. Not really rare up until this point to see other coordinators get handed the play calling responsibilities. So before this story gets really blown out of proportion, if other people see it elsewhere, it's not too rare of a sight to see it. Other coaches do it, at least this offseason, to give it a try. You don't want to try it out, obviously, in the regular season and have it all blow up in your face. This is the time to experiment and try out. So there is that little caveat from it. But again, I'm not really too convinced by it, because there's already been a lot of smoke around this situation, going back to all those reports that I mentioned. And although it's curious that once Aaron Rodgers isn't there, the responsibility goes to someone else, just playing off of that narrative last year that once Aaron Rodgers went down, the play calling was nowhere to be seen. This now plays more into that, and I think it's just all too coincidental to not believe that there's more there. I think, in my opinion, I think the Jets are still actively looking for a way maybe to not give Nathaniel Hackett 100% of the responsibility to call plays. I can't blame the New York Jets for trying, because of how 2023, ended up. This is the time to experiment, all the same system. So it isn't like Todd Downing is implementing something else where it could confuse people with the lingo and the just the wordage that they use when they're calling plays and something like that. They do have the benefit at all running under the same system, so it's not too big of a risk to incorporate another voice and maybe giving it a try. I think the Jets right now, the overarching narrative and the overarching theme of the Jets for this season is that there is a lot of pressure on them. They have to produce. They have to perform a lot better than they did last year, because they obviously expect Aaron Rodgers to be there. So in that same breath, they have to take everything into account with this offense and make sure everything is picture perfect. And if Nathaniel Hackett has already given them enough doubts to not be that guy, why wouldn't they try out something different to at least see what they have at their disposal? I don't blame them, like I mentioned before. And what do I make of Hackett's role now? What do I make of his position and where he stands with the team? I think the more this carries out and the more Aaron Rodgers is there, obviously that will mask it a little bit more. But at the same time, with this whole situation with Hackett being the play caller, not being the play caller, the Jets saying they have confidence in him, but not really showing it, and giving other guys a try. It's different when other organizations do it because there's not this talk about their offensive coordinator not being capable of doing it. You have to have it in the right context, obviously. If you already have all these stories coming out about Nathaniel Hackett and them not having confidence in him, to now give the play calling opportunity and the play calling duties to somebody else doesn't really make people go away from that narrative at all. Instead, it makes them add on to it, and that's where I find myself on this side of the argument with Nathaniel Hackett. Calling plays, might not be calling plays. Who has those responsibilities in training camp? How impressed were the Jets with Todd Downing through this short period in mandatory minicamp? I don't think that's overdoing it because, again, there's too much pressure on the Jets for them not to take every single thing into consideration before they actually go out there and play real-life football. They have to iron out all their deficiencies up until that point, and I think this remains to be one of their biggest one. Where Aaron Rodgers is at this point in time is another one, but all jokes aside, this is a massive thing for them to figure out, and they can't have it be Nathaniel Hackett one time, Todd Downing another time. They have to iron it out, and they have to really figure it out. And it could be a split decision. Todd Downing incorporates himself more into the decision-making process, or Nathaniel Hackett gives some input and maybe gives the other to Todd Downing. In some other instances, they have to figure it out and not leave it so much in this limbo of uncertainty with the New York Jets, because that's the last thing the Jets need is more uncertainty. They're already trying to figure out where Aaron Rodgers is, how this is all going to come together in 2024. They're going to be under a massive spotlight, and once you're in a massive spotlight like that, not to mention playing in New York, every little thing, every little deficiency, every little error, every critique that can be made will be made, and the Jets obviously know that that's a possibility, so they have to make sure everything is in line. I think this will probably be, if I'm projecting now to wrap up this segment, probably the last season with Nathaniel Hackett. I don't want to be calling for his job or anything, but I just think there's too much uncertainty and too much actions counteracting what they say to not believe that they really don't have as much confidence in Hackett as they say. And even if it all plays out well, maybe Aaron Rodgers wants to keep Nathaniel Hackett around, I think they have to just pull the trigger on some tough decisions and try and get better. And I think you can find better out there outside of Nathaniel Hackett. But let me know what you guys think about that. Do you agree with what I say? Do you think Nathaniel Hackett will stay longer than this period with the New York Jets? Leave your thoughts in the comment section after the show or in the live chat box. But in saying that, that will do it for this episode of the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the show, as well as following us on other social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok for more of the network's content. If you want to see more of me and this show, check out the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast Network and the GSMC Sports Network as well on YouTube for a lot more content around football and around just the NFL in general. And as a final reminder, tune in every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for more football conversations and NFL discussions with me, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thank you guys again for joining me. Hope you guys all have a great weekend, and I'll see you back here on Monday.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.